It's 10 o'clock.
Tenam chudi kachishin digirda, dongba? Other didi. Oh, yeah. Okay, now we'll start the prayer. In English, I take refuge in the Guru, I take refuge in the Buddha, I take refuge in the Dharma, I take refuge in the Sangha. From now until my enlightenment, I take refuge in the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha. And by the merit created in this practice, may I attain the state of Buddhahood for the benefit of all sentient beings. May all sentient beings enjoy happiness and causes. May all sentient beings be free from suffering and its causes. May all sentient beings never be separated from joyful bliss. May all sentient beings abide in equanimity attachment, and anger. This ground anointed with perfume, strewn with flowers, Mount Meru, encircled by the four continents, surmounted by the sun and the moon, I visualize this Buddha field and offer it. May all living beings enjoy the pure land. Idam Guru Rana Mendala Kame Yadayame.
So, what some lots of stress you then the much demand rogins.
Good morning to you all, and thank you for joining me this morning's summer meeting. And we will continue our today's practice discussion and where we left in a previous class.这个我们用个嘛了，我们对那个问题怎么了？
我们讲我的，要记得从这个
Ah, yeah.
어떻게 내가 다리도 내가 좀 몸도 깔막하시 잡고시라.
Yeah, as we did it before, and first of all, let's take a few minutes and recite the Aryantara and mantra and meditate on Aryantara.
좋은 가도 나차 되기 쳤대. 좋단다 너무 가가 시주 나차 들어 되기 쳤대. 네. 한동안 우리 딱 그런 캐는 거지. 싸움당.
Again, and so our very motivation is to do this practice is collect the merits and dedicate the merits aimed to free and beings who are suffering in general, and particularly those who suffered and troubled by the coronavirus. And so then dedicate the merits and for the benefits of all being in general, but then particularly those who are affected by the virus.
Jumden Dema Lamo Doma La Chaza Loi Chaza Doma Duri Amo Duda Rai Jibun Sema Dure Dona Tamju Derma Soa Ye Jala Ra Dare Dudare Dure Soha Dare Dure Soha Dare Dure Soha Dare Dure Soha Om 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 Dare Dure 나를.
야, 이렇게 다 했다. 대체 너무 되네, 남들끼라. 야, 그럼 어떠니? 다 같은 때는 막 지켜줘라. 젠툰 돈일기 샹습기 셈 정슬라 니라 니스 정슬라 니라 니스 니지 네급기 냠는 땅 예스 참비 네급기 냠는 노스 아다 섭지 니지다 당보라 니 샴바곰바다 현지곰바 당보는 어네 다 샴바곰바텔라 돈은 님보 Pemer Jangwa Si Sonde. And Li Longcho Geza Tong Jiwi Goni Shamba Gombata. Tomer Payun Sambi Goni. Tomer Payun Samna Draw Chi Jong Shiktok Jiwi, Jiwi, Payun, Tangin Jawli. Shewa Takti Shangtana Chopa Namang Pagamin Jinichi Jincho Namla Di Tang Chopi, Shambi Simji Tang, Chermopul, Shi, O Yachi Ui, Yil Tatak, Ki Shangla, Ki Tang the Chopa Shepali, Son Shiver, Songatans, Jahul, Ki Shankopa Lake, Shangshiki Samni, Sangi Ranshi Chembon, Chitiki Kamtongi. Yawa Shishawa Tena, Gelong Gopala Shipi, Deva Jit Simchin Namkyang, Devra Dano, De Lo Shewa Yak, the Changchula, Jopan, Shang de Tana, Sekul Tabi, Yizum de Simchin Tamchilla, Shambi, Simkina, Hamali Kyang Sonum, Chimong de Kivina, Kanshi, Santanewa. 是大致每个西松所的，这里人生长话里，让我去参加卡西等的年龄是第三，准备讲，想把一种方式给所能，到了前面破事，他也想当，他们想不给话，当得给讲送话当，一电话当。De Mawatan, Titan Suki, Nobame Patan, Baba Maper, Don Topatan, Tawinji the Curate, got the roar, Michael Sham Chi Yun Yetopo, she son there, Shamba Yona, Hami Shamsham Nangi, Dawata, Yavi Jam, Dawate Shambi Toki. Pamberza Songwi Chop the Gero Songso, or that the Barchina.
Okay, please go to your translation copy 61, page 61. So I'm going to read stuff in the middle, the how to dispense your body positions and virtues in general. Now, follow the general explanation according to the scripture of just how to give away body positions and virtues. The purpose of giving them away is that in so doing, we will oh, I'm sorry, my fault. Actually, it's 59, page 59. No, my apologies. Page 59, actually cultivating the awakening mind concerned with the interest of others. This has two sessions, taking the practice to heart in the context of an actual meditation session and what to do after the meditation session. The first involves the meditation on love and then on compassion. Meditation on love. Practice a combination of giving and taking. when we meditate on love by such a means as giving away our bodies, possessions, and merits to others, we should firstly understand the benefits to be gained through so doing. Then we will be filled with the great eagerness to practice the actual technique for activating love. The king of meditative stabilization sutra says, were we to make as many infinitely huge offerings as the millions and billions of realms in the universe and were to offer them forever to the supreme beings, it would not compare with the fraction of the mind of love. So the Buddha has said that the merits created through love is far greater than the derived from the constantly offering objects of great value to Buddha fields across the far reaches of the universe. In the sutra on the adornments of Manchushri's realm, it is said, in the northeast direction, which is said to be adorned by 1,000 realms of the universe of extremely powerful awakened being, Mahashivara. Every sentient being experiences happiness like the bliss of those bhikkhus who are absorbed in meditation on the cessation of suffering. Such good conduct extends over thousands of millions of years. Yet, were one person in our world to generate love for all sentient beings for even as long as it takes to snap his fingers, the merits he produced would be far greater. So what it needs is there to mention the value of abiding day and night in meditation on love. The Precious Garland says, even giving 300 delicacies 3 times every day to monks would not equal a part of the merits of even one moment of love. You will be loved by God and man, and they will also offer you protection. You will experience mental ecstasy and much happiness, and poison and weapons will do you no harm. You will effortlessly achieve your purpose and could be born in the Brahma's realm, even if you have not attained liberation. Through love, the 8 spiritual qualities are gained. If you have love, God and man will gather together, and it's a force. Even the conqueror Buddha defeated the malevolent forces of Mara through the power of love. Therefore, it is the supreme protection and so forth. You might wonder about the sources of explanation for meditation on love through giving away your body, wealth, and virtue. It is to be found in Shantideva's Guide to the Bodhisattvas.
삼치증도 왔더니 맞아. 내 가르즈나 네 직당 아주 다 깔리고 지러와 토치 뭐 등하로 랑땅 젠즈니 말아도 또네 랑땅 젠세데 직당 전에 다 오늘 전에 파자니 손은 가 랑세데 거와지 젠세데 가르즈 카반로 치용소 될라 지금 데르타 저거 랑스파 가야는 얘기오마 랑세데 얘기오마도 젠세데 얘기오마 이나 랑젠세데 카버트 컨디 치용을 이나 파쇼고 봉보 링거 있음 거 봉보 제당지라 때니 딱비 딱좀 지더니 아니 랑라테니 젠젠라테니 랑세데 랑진 카버 치오 치용을 당아도 랑세데 나세데 나랑세데 랑세데 거 랑세데 나랑도 데 미타 봉보 요르디나니 서르지나 아주 저기지 코다 랑르다 데버드 코 랑르세데 아주 쓰시니 그 말. 아랑 소소라테니 정도로 나라테니 나랑에서 그래 이 파쇼 선을 젠세 거. 진짜 랑진제니 카버 니우트 치용 잡을 이유도 치용을 써네 랑징이 잡을 치용을 띠자다 니가다 랑세다 나로 랑세다 아주 띠땅 나바 탐치도 셈나 요르다 셈나 나랑 토마메 바디 요르다 와르다 데도 나랑도 나세 요르다 나 데와당다 등은 뜻네 삼루도 요르다 또 요바tam기 질리지 당등 아주 시요 말다 다데 랑라 삼바 낭진 다데 잔라 카게라이나 다다데 전둔 돈이지 상지지 섬스거다. 다 상지 세바세야 때네. 직접 탁바치 뭐 탁가 종어지 치세고 치 상지 좀 된데 송어용라. 삼바 야채 종문이 잡아서 삼바 야채는 탁바치 보세야 돼. 야채 뭐 전기 돈 셰버셰바 전동 하나 삼킨 삼로킹에 되나 탁바치 뭐 남나 시비 강성래. 치 가른 냠는 가르치고는 그런 거 삼로 야채 뭐 기다오나 탁바치 뭐 강성다. 치 가정 상하다 배 삼기 뭐 기비치 땅 사보 때문에 쇼 냠는 지고나 소소 랑콘이 또 사무 땅에 지고나 타바치 모르니 가서 치 냠슬레비치 타바치 보이더라 냠슬레바보 가서 코로 타바치 만바레 그런데 사무자 좀 올때 저단디 사무자 치비 고니잖아 랑도 전이기 전돈 돈이 이렇게 거래스 다 전돈도 이렇게 상습지 샘 제와때 정월셰비 빨라 니라 니지다 뜻상 전돈 돈이 제वर 좋다 상주 샘세였다고 그러지. 상주 샘세한테 간다지 그러잖아. 덤반이 되지. 덤반이 되세요 가르잖아. 오 샘주 탐지 능력이 따와다 대화당 담바야. 솔직히 샘주 탐지 능력당 따와다 대화당 담바 덕기 짜오. 대지 단다당 저한테 니와당 가면서 이 채등 강원을 좀 상기기 연세요. 소소 르바니 용스 드베니 돈이 탈시바시비 상지지 공방 토벌식인 전에 넘바이들은 넘바 당보도 심지 탐지 능력이 조인 코로나리 타르시버 시비 쳇드 넘바니와도 티 쳇드 강원을 좀 상기기 연세 티 상지위 점수 나 상지위 점수도 심지 탐지기 쳇드 능력이 조이시도 상기해서 또 인사 뜨니오데 다 상지 샘세데 데리스 상sem스고라 다다 니즈 네크 냠슬렘발라데 다 상치지 샘세데 니즈 콩 니스지 냠슬렘버셰발라 가르고즈나 냠네 제발라다 지스 총이 네크기 냠네 노즈 다 데당 지스 텀버셰비 코 제로 참과 코르치요레스 다 가르스 도테 가르즈나 다 데레 니요 샴바당 양지니레스 조네 샴양지니오데 니워드 혼데 로고고요레스 근데 다 샴바당 양지니 혼데 로고르셰발라 샴바세데 간다스 세고레 형지세데 간다스 세고레 다 상주 샘세데 너마이니 자송아 샴바세데 대화당 다는 삼바데레 땅아 소소랑이 라코일렘바이나 바로 대화된사 대화용사데 강요르 니요레 조 리레 리당 셈이레 조 셈을 때네 리르와 셈그 강네 아니 지 소소고 남토 마르비앙 거나 만다존이 에네 셈마켈다 미몽고자 강한테 셈나요 양 꼴지게 리그 강네 지금 다 리드 초땡 그거는 지금 그런 거 처음 줘다 그 데리 그거는요 나사 공개용 리스미 유 리데와도 셈키바 유도 아주 대화래 어때 소소랑이라 셈키바도 리데와 요바 고아 나진 셈지 탐절한테 직발에 샤마 공개나 데리 공개나 당아 리데 오지고 유는 셈키보지고 요 데는 셈지 탐절한 리데 오지고 전 삼마 직발에 나도 직발에 리데 오고 셈키보고 그러지 아니 샘지 탐지 그 리디와동 샘집을 쏘 몰음 야외나 아니 때 다 샴바 공부라 네 같이 좀 공부해나 다 이거는 표현식고 그 침몰을 표현 침몰을 쓰고 있다 대사다 디 동소자 대화당 담바당 대화당 담을 셰파나 가르고르지 등을당 타와 보고 다 등을 타서 때라 리기 등을도 샘기 등을도 리기 등이 용고 대이 등을 때리 전화서 미삼로도 양지 디 자리 대화당 대화때 된나서마데 샴바레 대당 디당 남바도 만들어 소치 세와도 지 온가스나 어디다 다 심지 가와 심지 담지 대화당 된 심지 연진라 분선 속바지 내기 당담을 링스 등으로 셈나나 가와기 용으로 소소때 가와 참에 심지 탐절라면 봐 참에서 때 심지 탐절라면 봐야 참에 기당 말하면서 전라 기부 종나 가와 용하다 전라 기부 종 소소랑이 인형이 에니 강성때라 기부 종나 가와 당 등을 종나 만도었던 말하면서 랑징 요를 랑체스 요 등아도 차당 그 끝내랑의 용구 요때 다다 참에 봤을 때 많이 봐 심지 탐지 영어 차당에 봐 랑진 탐질라 찍바 삼노당 토와이나 어따 참이즈니 참이즈 때 상치셈 몸을시비 혼루 조착해요. 대자다 동보 셈고발라 심지 탐질라 찍바 삼노당 동용 참이 공부 동용 참이 정말 찍바이 랑당전 정말 찍바리 찍바 임비 임천로 삼노고 당연한 땅 알아도 찍당 찍다 리슴 점라 때 바이 바 호텔라 아니 마리피 공급에 도죠 대화도 그 잘라 돈다 등을 장장 때문에 득바장지 등을 아니 코라 토만 번에 코리 랭게데 아니 직바에 받들이 쇼라 파 삼노당 안 직바에서다 심지도 나 대화도 받아서 코 대화도 그래 근데 세면 연바이나 직바 직장에 다즈나 직바를 연즈나 정말 직바에 세면 연바이나 근데 정말 다시 냥지동 샴바 공바이나 더더 용고 대자다 나도 지 동부세버 동용그 셈때 아니 상사다 월 상사 용벌시 받다 사 저도 사상은 되거나 상사 용벌시 받던 로데 사상 로드 찾고 그랬을 때인데 샴바당 영지도 칠도 칠당을도 같이 시기 단 리오 사원도 상치 셈들와 이 고마이나 때니 랑징 아주 셈지 사지 같은 데 저 참아 창송에나 당보 셈바 동용주 디강라 아니 샴영지가 렌당지 토틀 좀나 때니 상습이 사원다바다 람비 상기기 다 사당람 비용도 또바 탐지 총리 소소랑이 상기 공방도 특거래 세고 때자다 영지영도 샴바 공주도 같이 버단데랑 아주디 카드데 샴바가 곰비다 오트니다 마시기다고 때 오트 다 파윤식으로 샴바 곰나 아니 파윤 가르저 때 곰버셔발라 당보네 조합해고르스 셈노 샴바 곰나 가르판도 요르나 샴바 곰나 데데데 파윤 데데데 요르다 니와 데데데 요르다네 다티 조합해 있지다 공리 같이 오나 같이 롱망부 정도가 어찌 선이 추토망불라 쇼바포알에 따다 같이 좀 샴바고나 편치기를 해서도 보다도 저기 로티 아주네 야종거 그거래 롱로 조합해 비치들이 편식을 편비는 로그 조합이라
So, yes, so in general, we know we are, generally speaking, we are here and talking about and try to do something that is remarkable, that is extraordinary. That's because in this particular case, and the teachings and the practice or the path that we are trying to follow is called Mahayana, or the Great Vehicle practice. And the essence of Great Vehicle tradition or the practice teaches us how to sacrifice or replace the self, the benefits of self and with others, and which is challenged and very challenging, and it directly sort of challenges our basic sense of who we are, our sense of ourself. Why? Because in general, we always say, and we are constantly in the state of understanding or the sense of ourself is that always is me here, I am, and then other. So we always say I and other, right? Me and other. So there's this demarcation. We draw this line and or divided, make this division, and by look upon others or something and other than ourselves, and then say other. At the same time, and so we sort of solidify and recognize something and by called ourself, I or me. And so this I and other and the division or the demarcation is kind of for us is pretty normal, and or it's generally speaking, it's a very sort of natural way to pursuing or responding and doing everything and live our life. But here in Mahayana teaching, it challenges our sense of ourselves, and it's so because according if you follow this teaching, and particularly follow its philosophical view with respect to what is that I, right? And you divide it, you make it a division, you draw a line, right? You separate you make that a strong sort of a solid and conquered, right? And a line between you and other. You by identify yourself. The philosophical teachings of Mahayana challenges you. Say, okay, find that I, find that self, find that individuality, right? Find others, right? Encourage you to find other, find yourself. And if we truly, honestly follow the teaching, we know that we cannot, first of all, we cannot find ourselves as permanent, as independent, or as autonomous, some kind of autonomous entity at all. And at the same time, if you follow the philosophical teachings of Mahayana, find others from ultimate point of view, right? You also can't really define that absolute I or objective I is out there by itself or independently. So therefore, and we say I and me here, and we claim, make such a claim all the time. But in fact, this is a sort of really only valid in the relative sense, right? We call ourselves here is because of other, something else, the others there. So others in the sense that we prove it. We use other as a proof to establish our selfhood. But in fact, what are others, right? When you really examine the base which you use as a proof, right, as evidence to establish your selfhood and individuality, you end up with that very object which helps you to establish yourself as a sense of selfhood. In fact, is the aggregates, okay? It's the assembly, okay? The five aggregates, right? So they are sort of combined, right? They are sort of assembled, right? And it's piled sort of in the pieces, right? And then make it up in something there. It itself doesn't have anything. That very base in the you use it as evidence. In fact, itself is not there independently operating under its own power. So what you end up find out is that the very basal evidence that you establish selfhood is a mere term that established through the process of labeling. So therefore, it doesn't matter how you claim, how you feel strong about it. In fact, it's not from ultimate point of view, it's not there. So therefore, then this so-called I and then say others. You draw on this line, and then responded to or react accordingly. In fact, and philosophically speaking, and it has to be really carefully examined. But this thing again, so if you take it from the Mahayana spiritual practice point of view, right? So you find that actually, even though it's ultimate from ultimate point of view, it's not there objectively, and but conventionally it's valid. It's there because our we do have the empirical knowledge and to confirm it, right? So therefore, and we can use that and the conventional and experience empirical knowledge, which confirm the self, the sense of self, the validity of self, sense of self, and the other, and then turn it into the Mahayana practice, and to use it as the path, or turning it into the path of spiritual realization. So what we do here is that we, by the means of meditate on the love and compassion. In other words, so use that as the means to develop our bodhicitta. How we develop our the mind of enlightenment, right? Bodhicitta. You know that bodhicitta in general, generally speaking, has marked by two aspirations. So one aspiration is you want to attain enlightenment. That's the one aspiration. The second aspiration is you want to free all sentient beings from the suffering. So bodhicitta is marked by these two aspirations. Our goal is to practice and perfect such a enlightened mind or the awakening mind. So the way to start it and our practice is that so by the understanding that the qualities and the benefits of the loving and the kindness. So the loving kindness that is the starting point, right? So here we studied the Buddhism, and essentially, and we even here not just Buddhism in general, but we specifically speaking, we study practice Mahayana. Mahayana teaching we consider it's a great mystical teaching, and so, but whether it's great or not, and it's really depend upon your attitude, your very motivation. And even in a sense that we are, and on top of Mahayana, we even practice the Vajrayana practice. Our teachings are associated Vajrayana teaching. That's the most profound and most the highest the teachings of Buddhism. But it all depends on your attitude. If you started, like for instance, in your Vajrayana practice, but if you aimed to only take the teaching as a means to address your individual problem, try to free yourself from the suffering, then even you, the very teaching that you practice is Mahayana, and more specifically speaking is Vajrayana. But because of your attitude and your intention is focused on your individuality and your own benefits, so therefore, and you are the teaching, even though it's Mahayana teaching, but because of your attitude, and it is become a small vehicle teaching. It's no longer a Mahayana or the Vajrayana teaching. So therefore, whether it's what is the teaching is a greater or small vehicle, and it's solely depend upon your intention. So your intention is your practice is driven by the bodhicitta, and the bodhicitta is marked by two aspirations. Then so the very teaching you practice is the Mahayana teaching. And so Mahayana teaching is aimed against to accomplish two outcome or two great benefits of benefits. The benefits is for self and the benefits for others. So and then in this particular context, that what your practice of compassion, you start your practice of bodhicitta and by starting in the practice of compassion. And then, you start your practice of bodhicitta began and by the practice of equanimity, to equalize yourself, right? Equalize that to everything and everyone, and by analysis the very fundamental needs, the intentions, and of yourself and others, right? And so your analysis or your study, your exam, and should bring you to the point where you really see, as far as the interest and of the individuality is concerned, there's no any difference between you and the others at all, right? So once you fully realize that, yes, that's indeed it's true. It is true. It is the case, and then so you move on, because once you reach that equanimity and the state of mind of equanimity, and then you can use as a base, and then so begin to practice the kindness. Kindness here is the attitude, or is the intention, is the practice where you want to give the happiness to others, bring the joy, bring the something that's decent to others, and contribute to others' life. And so that's the essence of the kindness. And then you move on, and so you want to, because you're really truly dedicate yourself and want to bring the happiness and joy to others, and then you also will naturally find that you want to free others from the suffering and the causes of suffering. So that's takes you to the second the types of practice. That is compassion, right? So while you are practicing compassion, meaning that try to free all sentient beings from the suffering, causes of suffering, you will realize that, as far as the capacity is concerned, right, the powers and the attributes and skillful means of wisdoms and so on and so forth is concerned, you find that you are actually your skills and your powers and knowledge and the compassion and everything is very limited. So then you turn to realize that you have to be a spiritually fully enlightened being in order to fully address the sufferings and causes of sufferings of all sentient beings. The only way to do is to attain the Buddhahood, to become Buddha yourself. Right? At that point, then you fully dedicate yourself and aim to yourself to become Buddha, and by the means of all the Mahayana teachings. That's the path and the bhumis or the ground by achieve each step by step. So that's how you begin to practice how you begin the approach the development of bodhicitta, right? So here in the text it talks about the actual practice and then the preliminary practice, right? And so actual practice is the practice of bodhicitta itself. The preliminary practice is involved with the engagement of such as equanimity and loving kindness, compassion, and the rejoicement, right? And that means that you need to the way to achieve accomplish or perfect the bodhicitta, you do need to practice 4 immeasurable thoughts, right? 4 immeasurable thoughts. Just like we said in prayer, may all sentient beings free from the suffering, causes of suffering, and so may all sentient beings and possessing the happiness and the causes of happiness. May all sentient beings never separate from the happiness they have achieved, and then may all sentient beings free from the attachment and aversion, and so on and so forth. So that's your preliminary and practice of the development of a bodhicitta. And when we say that I want to bring the joy and the happiness to others, and in fact you are talking about 2 things. So you want to bodily and bring the joy and happiness to others, make others bodily happy and comfort and enjoyable. And then secondly, you also want to bring happiness to something that's joyful and good and to others, and mentally make others mentally feels great, feels happy about it. And within the body mind, of course, the mind is the primary. So therefore, and while you're focused on the bring happiness to others, and both bodily and mentally, and remember that make others mentally enlightened and joyful, and achieve the realization is it's ultimately the matters. And so again, when you say I want to free from this, all sentient from suffering, cause of suffering, you also address the two aspects of that very individual. That means you want to free that sentient being from the whatever the sufferings that he or she or them experience with their body. Right? You try to do whatever you can, free them from the sufferings they enduring and bodily. At the same time, also, and you do whatever you can and help others free from the sufferings and the dismay and any aversion or any mental distress. Through the means and by whatever you can and free others from the sufferings mentally they're experiencing. So yeah, the body, like some people are suffering and because of illness and or lack of food or fatigue and whatever they're experiencing. So you try whatever you can. And this four immeasurable practice here in the text is particularly says is much more important then spiritually, in many cases, we do, and I would love to do, like make offerings to the Buddha, right? And a prayer to the Buddha. Even materialistically, we sort of, we arrange a huge quantity of beautiful the object of the offering, material objects, right? And try to offer to the Buddhas, Bodhisattvas, or the field of Buddhas, Bodhisattvas. And we think that's cool, that's the very important, the great practice. It is important, it is cool, but according to the text, if you compare to meditate on the compassion, the kindness and compassion, right? And then the merit you gain, right? Compared to the material, the offerings you made and to the Buddhas, Bodhisattvas with the material goods, right? The merit that you gained by meditation, just in this, like the moment of snapping your finger, the moment you practice and you place your mind and sincerely on the kindness and compassion and so the merit you gain compared to you make offerings with all kinds of jewels and the precious stones and so on and so forth to others, it's incompatible, right? It's incompatible. So the benefits of your practice of loving kindness and compassion is much greater than the offerings you make objective materialistically as being this point of incompatible is being taught and in this text, like it mentioned in the text. Here we use the text of
it's 11 o'clock.
The King of Meditative Stabilization Sutra as evidence, the spiritual or textual evidence, and similarly, and the author also used the sutra on the abandonment of the Manchuria Rome and use the precious garland and so all these texts are says proves that to your physical the way to physically and please Buddha and by making offerings is less important than meditate on the compassion and kindness and the compassion. So anyway, the bottom line is that the bodhicitta is our goal, right? Enlightened mind and awakening mind is our objective that we want to achieve. And so the way we begin, if we do this use the farmer who plants the grain in the field. Let's say this. Our goal is to the greater excellent harvest, right? The field, that very field, we're going to the farmer, just like farmers plant the seeds of the wheat. So here the very field is equanimity, right? And then the kindness and the compassion is like the water and fertilization, the fertilizer. The water fertilizer is like the water and the sunlight, yes. So there's a heat. So by having that the field, right, equanimity, and the aim to attend the Buddha for the benefit of a sentient being, and it began meditate on the kindness and the compassion, and is our actual practice. That's what the authors try to convey here.
강에서나 파 강에서 뒤에나 다 먹자는 거지. 먹자는 정말 랑지 탐지 이보지 미송로와 절롱순로와 아니 지금 종아도 차정 트로와 강을 치수지 용거를 되나 시기월도 신나를 때 야거다 강도 먹자고 때 진짜 로지가나 먹고 여러 멋진 이와서 맞게 먹고 잡자. 방법이와 먹고 잡자로. 어다 치사 총산이 삼는 동안에 때리지 맞지. 파쇼텔라 파쇼 나중 삼는 동안에 코테리지 다 향지 미트 그런 말이 받다 머시고 거다 공셔당도 때려 왕거 코테리지 삼는 동안에 말을 렌라 와르테나 교면데 때리지 향지 코티 딩나들이 전에 semngambateli to meori church some tangana kyorong tela nyangji gomjane tona lamso chu semla phashok kangan yongda zor da nyang yongda ti chol ndar ru po yo mar to sem de shidi chini ne thbor e phashok ti yangji yangzi te gi yongda zo yo na te ko sem holo chini yangji ji kan ne lang khola pa rastro do kar chi ko momba mashi chi momba ji gong te yong yo yamna kyorong khola cha chi samlo chi yamna te konchi momba gong ti pa sewa ge tablam do kar de ko kar chi nga led loar ko yimchi kangshi te ne te samlo tang de ti pa samnyang ji gong ni lang ne pa sashi ji thwa samlo tang thwa na o ta rang jin tham chi ge dewa tang de bilam ro sa to chakyo wer de cha te chame samlo tang alu ta de chi sheli ni ma to ko chi chone shego de zo ya jen chi ne pa chi sheli ka ge de pa chi 심지 탐지지 다른 것도 지들에 아니 아주 소치라 교고 미데 정말 특박 잡들이 지나다 렘부지요 말. 다 소소 무직사도 소소랑이니 파지니 전 소소치라 년콜라 요베네 지 파마 빈친다 자정 위트니 종데 아니 지 년예들 때니 파지 다 kim체라 소바 르비 지니 야케 트와이나 어때 약속들 동부 소소니 무직이 냠는지네 네 파쇼 강을 쳐서 강을 때라 카트 때라 동는지 더해나 아주 때 장지 될 체지 장 소주 냠는지 선지기 신업잖아 따든지가 됐다 선지 좀 더 되게 신업 때 가르잖아 그런 거 아니 결혼주 능을 등일 락박을 렌트고 말다 치게 치트고 말다 얘네 다나 심지 탐지 능을 소리 니와 요와 말을 때 말해 요르스 나 가르지 친이 대바다 비토르지니 결혼주 람던 좀 좋아네 닐기 토피 셔럽 땅던 샴냥질로 수바 곰바이나 결혼수 등에 테이크르다 때 타고 약치를 선지도 송을 때 자당 아주 소소 등을 리터 당 심지 탐지 등을 교벌 세변도 받나 당부 소소랑이 그 냠는지 때 실라 컨트롤 아치 다 교도 그걸 딱 땅안에 갈래하고로 하는 소소랑이 그 땅 아주 망쳐서 관서가 소관서 버 마셔왔다 때 얘나 소소랑이랑 고치 소소랑이라 스칼 로카당도 좀 상동에나 지금 요모도 칸당간다 또 뭔데 그래서 쏟다 때 갈래하고래 때 남성 갑자기 잡다 배 갈래하고래 얘는 뭔도 마케르 하로니 용거 요바데 담보 요모데 땅때 니슨 징닌 진트보 니진 톱송나다 때 딱코데 미 리차드 코마다지나 땅고 코마데 니슨 톱송나 미데 코마다지나 하고 소나다 미데 용거수 수선도 지그라왔다 코마데 용거도 자주 잘라도 동 접사지 때 좀뭐라 담보 무치고 본보자도 그렇게 잡주거나 담보 본보도 무시 소나왔다 본보도 레고들 모델 콜 레와들 주고 딱코 벨란로 칼샤 저지 그렇다 당시 당보 샴당 향지 성지 샘로 소바 데리게 샘 야가다 마리 파도 셰 도초동 셰당라 소바 데리게 샘 드가도 무시 유카션 버리 무시 소나 딱코 소소 jel라티 참아 용화지랑 아주 사원로 답다나 사지티가나 코나 기고 뜻담도 뜻었어 맨담다 맨이가 기고자 당보 소소가 무슨 징이스 톱소나다 용고나 따때 잡주지 강고한테 강에 받대 바꿔왔다 거지 야 폐기 땅고한테 강에 받대 폐기 땅한테 데리지 토와이나다 원비 냠는 거네 네 샘티야기 땅 토와이나 아니 라징길 리드 쳤던다 고 쳤던다 바지고 같이 리라기 쳤던 시티지에나 리드 르비르비 불지니 타마타마데 카트도 그러라 이나 샘트 때 말에 맞더니 야기 땅 토와이나 다다게 더니오나 카르나발 렌디 시즌 땅와이즈나 시송나 시위지성 아주 다다 쳔델라 방청적 주고 니와 맞더니 루트 거고 교시마라 원데 기타고 베나 쳔델라 베 저 득습진의 시워지나 교시마 남서양 되게 되게 교활용 속에 샤이 총조이나 데 소조교가 오데 드바스교가 오데 쳔델라 삼양질라 소바데 쇼 원진데 되게되나 교시마 거기 총조지 기도나 코치 파주 소스 어떤데란 접순지아도 밀라지 로지알라 파미와 된데가 정지 그 생고 빠치는 거 용거 됐다 아주 상매지 뭐든 조대 아주 벤로 어떤 아주 소소랑이 그 섬 더월세 받던 소소랑이 그 섬 yar기 때문에 아니 요떤 알아서 다 뭐기 소래 어떤 게 뜻이겠어요.
Okay. So here, the text here author also suggests to us the way we can begin, and our practice is by giving and taking, like the text says, the combination of the giving and the taking. So you meditate on love first, or kindness, loving kindness. So the practice is a combination of giving and taking. So giving and the taking is again, it's not an easy task. That this practice is can be very challenging, and particularly for those who are like at the beginning level as a novice. This is because we are not familiar, used to, and this kind of profound in humor. So we generally, and this practice of giving and taking is so once you give whatever the merits, good qualities, and the things which can be considered the great, but to give it to others. At the same time, this teaching of giving and taking requires you to take others, right? And take others the sufferings from others. And like we talked before, maybe this practice would causes and somebody think that wow, this is how you can do it, right? And it's not possible to do because I already myself has suffered a lot, and I myself has way too much pains and challenges and confusions and issues in myself. How can I take others to aid and more on the top of what I have? So yeah, this question of fear is kind of it's a normal, and indeed, and our attitude in generally is one to take the happiness, right, and or to improve our state of pleasure or happiness, and try to avoid and eliminate the suffering, right? But now this teaching says to take others, giving you what you have and the quality and the good things to others, and to take the bad things and sufferings from others. So it might
Sunset, you're on mute.
just now, okay?
Yeah, that's one.
Where, like, just for a couple of seconds, right?
I think you were just you're beginning your speaking about how difficult the practice can be to beginners.
Oh, okay. Yes. How hard it is to begin beginners? It might make you feel it's impossible. However, there is a way you can do it. And suppose in the morning you wake up, right? Like we talked about in how you begin your meditation, you place yourself and the meditation cushion, right? And then you begin to visualize or meditate or think of someone and like your root guru, right? Your spiritual guidance and a guardian, someone is very inspirational, your mentor, and who gives you the sense of inspiration and give you the sense of courage and strength and hope. So you meditate on that root guru, or your principal deity. Of course, from Vajrayana point of view, the deity and the root guru are inseparable. It's one entity, right? And the identical. So you meditate on the deity, right, in the form of your guru or someone who is very inspirational, and you give you hope and courage and the strength. And then, so you meditate that guru in the form of essence of the form and the essence of that the guru in the form of in the appearance of the deity, the principal deity. So you did meditate on the deity and then visualize that from the heart of the deity, right? And radiate the lights, and then lights transform your state of being. And so you can think about the principal deity along with all the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, right? And all the Buddhas, Bodhisattvas, the power and attributes and their compassions and everything, and so it's transformed into the form of light, and the light reaches where you are, and then upon reaching you, and then you feel the greater bliss and the sense of the blessings, and instantly that blessing, right? And in the state of here we call it Dhammadha, and Dhammadha is in the state of ultimate reality, right? Where you and the deities that you meditate on, and so you directly sort of communicate with the deity or the assembly of the deity, and is led by your principal deity. That's who is the manifestation of your root guru. And so there, your mind is being transformed, right? Because now you are in the state of Dhammadha, at the ultimate the state of a reality. And so, and then your personal state of being is being totally transformed. So therefore, it gives you the strength, and it gives you the way and the ability and to take the sufferings of others. Why? Because now at this point you've been transformed, right? The way you've been transformed is in the state of reality, and then your meditation and is the state where they give you such a blessing. Right? And this blessing is basically transformed into the two qualities. One we call it the qualities of enlightened being. One is skillful means, upaya, and that is the wisdom and or realization. Right? Upaya here means kindness, loving, and compassion. Wisdom is the knowledge or the philosophical view, and which I understand the ultimate reality of ultimate reality. So here you sort of place your mind on such a states, and in your meditation, and that state of meditation, and it gives a tremendous bliss of the pleasure, not pleasure, sorry, tremendous bliss of the mental bliss. Yeah? And because of this mental bliss, you feel so well and totally transformed, and with great joy and courage and awareness. So this great joy and awareness and bliss and that you experience mentally in your meditation now is being affected to at the physical level. So now at the body level, you feel that the pliancy, bodily pliancy, and so you feel that you have now the actual skill of the upaya. That means loving kindness, compassion. You have the actual view, the realization, and that sees the actuality. So this is, we call it the Buddha's blessing, right? This is the blessing, and this is the power, and this is the energy, and which is we generally talk about. Yes, and so this would then makes you possible. The way we do that, the reason we do this is so generally speaking, when we feel ourselves is inferior and powerless, right, hopeless, we normally will find that there is hope if we go someone who is powerful, right, and who is in a higher position or authoritative figure asking for help, and he or she, if taking us under his or her protection, then we will be really find ourselves in the very hopeful and very powerful state, right? Then we can do what we in the what we will feel not possible, but because of that authoritative figure and he or she and agree to assist us, so therefore it's transformed our right condition, and by then whereby and we are now sort of entitled, right, able to do whatever we wanted to perform. So that's the same logic and the same way, right? And so our problem is that we normally don't do this, and instead, so we feel frustrated and not happy and about others, and for instance, like we just let the anger and sort of break out or arise and freely in our mind, and then. So we kind of just let it go and let the aversion and the hatred overpower us, right, at the individual level, right, and we let it. Then we become wild and we become mad. So at a collective level, in like a country or the states, right, if the entire country and right and become angry about other country, right, and then we know that. This could cause the war between the two nations, the two states. We have a lot of examples, and through the history of mankind, even just in the most recent history, we have the First World War. That's a result of angry, right, and hatred, and as well as the Second World War, and that's because instead of eliminate the anger and right transform our anger into the loving kindness, we just let the angry and overtaking us even multiply and make it stronger. So our practice is here at the individual level. We must know whenever somebody is not happy with us and angry and angry about anything we done or our very being, we must know that person, and that person in doing so is because he or she or they under the influence of the ignorance, and then they are now being tortured, being overpowered and by the anger. So in the doing it is because they are suffering. So this way, and then you can have the compassion. You have a room in your mind. Have to be able to get having love and kindness for others. At the same time, you also will have the ability to try and practice compassion to address the suffering and reduce their suffering and address the causes of the suffering. So when you really sincerely, genuinely doing that, and you will affect others at the individual level, and because then others find that you are not that kind of threatening and challenging and or sort of acting and bring some kind of imminent threat to them. So when they will become calm and or they will release that the intent release from that strong, forceful, and the stress. So they will become a little calm down. Then you can go approach them and explain at what point he or she or they misunderstood you. And so this way, and because of your compassion and your kindness, practice of the compassion and kindness, it can really fix the problem and right away. So this is what we call the blessings of the Buddha. And Buddha's blessing is not something that's miraculous always, right? Something is magical, but something is very practical. It's right here, and you can experience it immediately, or it's accessible right away if you do bring the kindness, compassion, and into the actual meditation, and use them as a means to transform your very basic mental attitude. So, in fact, the Buddha also told us that the way he helped us is not take our suffering and the causes of suffering with his very own hands. Right? In the sutra, Buddha clearly said that I can't take the causes of your suffering and the suffering, cause of suffering, like wash out the dirt and by the water. So I also cannot give what I have like to you as like in the materialistic way. But then you can say, you may wonder, oh, then that means Buddha have no power, right? No, actually, Buddha do have the power, do have this power we call blessing, and that is the Buddha said. And the way I'm helping you to address your problem and free you from the suffering, cause of suffering, is by showing you the actual path, the antidote, the technique, and so then you can free yourself and from the suffering and the cause of suffering. So anyway, we seem to saying a whole lot this and repeat this all the time. But the point is, practically speaking, we got to do this and not just at as a class activity or as a religious discourse or some kind of fancy conversation, but we have to do this in every day, right? In every day our life, and the way we're doing that is start from ourselves. The way you're doing that is started by someone right next to you. Let's say your family member, right? Start to practice your compassion and your love and kindness and compassion with your family, and then your neighbor, and then someone and you know, and so or you have any association, and then spread it out, right? And then reach out. So this way, and you really can see that what does it mean, the blessing or the power or the spiritual realization. And so that's what the thing I would like to say. And again, I'm not to judge anyone, say, you're not doing so, because in general speaking, we just don't know the person next to us, his or her levels of spiritual realization and who they really are. But yet, the thing is that instead of judge others and try to convince others, control others, and we must doing something and practice the teachings which we study and we learn it here, and start with our own very self. The way we start ourselves is that by recognizing or identifying our mental development. And pay close attention to your mind, see to what extent, how much you've been defiled, right? And what's your state of mental being, whether you've been affected by any form of afflictive emotions such as attachment, aversion, or the ignorance, right? This is just like to say, and you must always pay attention to if you are someone who has something, right? You own something like a wealth, a particular form of amount of wealth. You gotta always to pay attention who is the thief, right? And so by pay attention and recognize who is the thief or who is not, especially who is the thief, then way before that thief come in, right, and touch on, put his or her their hands on your wealth, and then you already and have the time and to prepare, right, and yourself, and to avoid your wealth being stolen. Similarly, so here in the you must pay attention, and we actually you must try our best to always pay attention to our state of mind and see whether we are being defiled or not. If we are, then so way before our defilement is over and the power on us, control us, and then we must do something about it. We have the chance to do it, right? And so we cannot wait until we become really afflicted and become so mad, and then try to fix the problem. That's too late. So our hope is way before this mental afflictions be manifested, right? And then we can minimize it and then banish it. So that's the practice we need to undertaking. So anyway, and our mind is like a field, and the Bodhicitta and is our the hopeful and the outcomes and the ideal harvest that we will try to achieve. And the seeds is here, the loving kindness and compassion. And our meditation practice is to progressing, to make a progress, to develop it, to enhance it. So we do things, right? Every day we do things. We are busy, we're doing things. And we do two things normally, right? Or generally. One is we're busy because we try doing something and to make our body feel comfort, feel good, and feel healthy, and feel nice. That's what we do. That makes us very busy. And also you can see that we are busy because we try to do something mentally pacify or make ourselves mentally happy and easy and good. So, but between the mind, you're busy for it, and do something for your mind, right, and make yourself feel good, and you do something busy mentally and to make yourself feel good. And between these two, and we know it doesn't matter how hard you try, right, and the effort you made or time you put in terms of to make yourself physically and bodily be good is unsustainable. At some point it will decline, right? But whereas if you put the energy, time, and into the mental something mentally, like a teaching we learned, and then practice it, and then it will develop infinitely. So yes, our practice has to know this is the cause effect. So what kind of cause, right, and will bring what kind of the effect. This is the law of karma, and we needed to know. We need to remember in our time. So if we do practice in this lifetime, right, here, like constantly place our mind on the compassion and acting and loving kindness, right, and acting. And then meditate on compassion and also act compassionately, and then we will print lots of virtues, the seeds, right, or the propensity, right, the propensity, and we'll print lots of the seeds like the propensities and predisposition in our consciousness. And then next lifetime, right, we can immediately experience it, and we can continue go on. And this is quite clear. We know that among the kids, right, some kids who from very young age they just like hunting, like killed the bugs and animals. They just they naturally don't have that much sense of caring others' well-being. Whereas those who previously practiced loving kindness, compassion, right, and naturally they somehow they just they not only don't want to hunting and doing something and harm others' life, but they naturally want to protect and do something good for others. All this tells that if you do practice something in this lifetime or did a previous lifetime, and it will affect you similarly. And it will affect your life after. So that's what I'm saying. The only point is that to find this teaching, find a teaching that we already have it, and then our the job is to constantly to repeatedly and to practice this, and so this way, and we can make a progress.
So that is also the.
Okay. So I think our time is is the end and finished. So now I'd like to take questions.
I have a question. I think maybe some of the others may have caught this, but I got a little, I wasn't able to catch this. You were using Gaishila Kunga was using the metaphor of a field and bodhicitta as the harvest. And I think there was water and fertilizer and sun and seed. And I was just wondering what these different parts of the metaphor map onto with our practice. I got that the field was equanimity, and I think the harvest was bodhicitta, but I wasn't sure about the other part. And maybe the metaphor I think could be helpful.
Okay. 这个大家就先上到去路，我对会长说，谁知道想去3个年嘞？你想把年纪，我对呢，但啥现在不就是那当用着嘛？这你想去生日不去这个，他东看个东来呀，去查查呢。 去到路里啊，想把你进来，别干日子去玩过噻，别地刚啥。
사즈도 셈을다. 사즈 그 땅다. 내 셈바 동용도 사즈 생각되고나 사지 냠보고 오라. 나 사도메와 냠보조데 셈바 동용. 셈바 동용은 다 작당 그치니 다이년제 요말 정말 집어서 동도. 뜻지다나 디강나 아니 샴부당 형지 고면도 제땅 잡당 망고 요라 가시게 형지 소지나 형지때 토마르까지 왔다게 토마르게 왔쳐도 토마르 사회 나오지 왔다 칠리 나오지 타 저음 와나지네 오면지 거나 되게려 이나 다당 아주 시험도 되게 셈지 사지 땅다니 콤 용벌시 받대 동용 좀 그래 동용 강라더니 셈지 타종벌도 상기게 셈지 타종벌도 상기에 있어야데 그 사원로도 상지지 셈지 사원로 따면도 그 상지 셈야 멤버십 조벌시 봐라 디 쳇당 렛당 졸라서 봐지가도 이진 한 지시진 줄어 어디 제라다 아니 샴동냐 제라서 바로 드시 받고 소소 르정라서 받 참고 오요다 어떤 참아 조금씩 거려 제땅 제나 아니 냥지가 열린지네 가 지기요 샴동냐 열린지네 다 고일랑나 되지 그랬어 다 곰작당 로지마 대 저도 상치서 고명으로 쏘다 다 바로 드시 받고라서 배니 지금 르비 람기 똑바 jelakini tartik 아주 리웅 원바데 원바스 심지도 원바서 상기 소소 르미 용스 르파 르미 용스 존에 손이 손이 탈신의 르미 생활시 받더라 어떤지는 돈이 생기 르바 청걸 랑도 전도 참아도 어떤 뭐이 탈때 되지
去了想把年纪当
어떤 한 시기 청걸 배나 회로롱나
리 자지즈 먹세근 자지즈 요마라
어때 야 저는 배다 조당 패수 속비 제치고라 배나 사원지 담나 사원때 겨울 셔발라 마블 셔발라 패수 속비 제차 창고라 어디 나지 가도 셔명 상기 컴포터블 셔발라 당도 상지 셈 연락기니 또 탈심을 셔발디 패수 속비 제도 상당량지다 인디망가들라 소바 차송원 두고 그때 인디망가들 이자마 전나마기는 다 도도 셔명지
Well, here's the thing. It's not exactly always the kind of fixed the metaphor and sort of one and coordinate another. But in general, the mind is the field. Here, in general, mind is the field, actual field. But what kind of mind here we refer to is the mind of equanimity. The mind of generally mind is the field, and the equanimity of the mind of equanimity is in this particular context is the field. And then like loving kindness and compassion, and if you think about it, it's a metaphor, and the fertilizer and the sunlight and the water, right? All this can be sort of interchangeably, or you can, according to its specific functionality, and you can sort of try to interpreting. But one of the things is like according to the Madhyamika Avatara, the entrance to the middle way and view, and so it says that it doesn't talk about it highly emphasizes the importance of compassion. It says that the compassion is the very important at the beginning, and it's important in the middle, and important at the end, right? And that's because you start your practice because you are compassionate. Right? That's why you put it yourself into the practice because you are so compassionate, and you maintain, right? And you hold on to, you sustain and maintain on that very practice, and adhere to your commitment is because of the compassion. And finally, you attend the Buddhahood, and you turn the wheel of Dharma, you teach others, right? Also because of compassion. That's why it doesn't talk about compassion and the kindness, loving kindness. And they highly emphasize the importance of kindness, the compassion itself. In that sense, that so the kindness is the seeds, right? The seeds of the kindness is the beginning, important at the beginning, and then in the middle, and then finally it's the end. Also, the same seed, the seeds of the compassion, right? It's at the seeds level, right? It's motivate you, and then from this seeds it produce the whatever the plants. And then the plants give the birth to the actual fruits, right? So, yeah, so according to the Madhyamika Avatara, and that's the case. But in any case that we need to remember is that so you set up your goal, and that's awaken your mind, right? Meaning that to attend the Buddhahood for the benefits of all sentient beings. And then you need to adopt all the means, right? Then you take all the other teachings practice as the means to wiping, right? Make yourself mature, to reach the maturity, right? A maturation of maturity, and wipe your very state of mind. And in order to ripen your state of mind, and then you needed to adopt all kinds of technique means, the skillful means. That is in this context, a particular text, and here talks about love, right, and then compassion. But we also have the other teachings. That is, for instance, like quintessential instructions, 7 points of quintessential instructions, right? And equalizing the self with the exchange of equalizing others, and the exchange of self with others, and so on and so forth. All those are in the techniques, but then all of them are aimed to achieve the same goal. That's the Buddhahood. That's the ultimate state of the Buddha. So that which means that and you attend the state of enlightenment, where you are no longer affected by the 2 obscurations. Two obscurations is obscurations for the affliction, and obstructions or obscuration to the knowledge. And so the way how you're doing that is by perfecting the two by the means of perfecting two collections of the collections of merit and collections of the wisdom. Yes, so all this are it teaches from different technical point of view, but essentially, the bodhicitta is the ultimate goal, and then others are the skillful means. Others just the technique and to help you to achieve there.
Oh yeah. Also, yeah.
Now let's do the dedication and prayers.
On page number 80.
Lo me ma re ge don do nan de ja we wong bo dan jer de ma so be che ro gon de ja be Rong ge zhe zhen do be lang ge shi zhao zi zhao wei tang gui zhuo wei ye jie men ba sa xi ya wei dang ba ye rong zhen zhe ba ren shen zhou gui ma qiu cha jiang yang bei zhi wei shou de Nyang jie chen bo ya re zhou ba pan de sa wer xie ber shou jie ya wei ma xiong chen le la zhe shang xiu lang ji ren bei shang tan du nan ye la hu de shang ya wei za ba rang de zhong jie Lam zang zhe bi ten jian zhe xi da jian se xie me dang me gen ce re gan de ya wei na ba yi Nam da lang dang zhe wer ma zhe ju gang zi tang ba chou la jie zhou zhi ce zhen zhe la zong ba de yi te de na 道德中。 大西洋左手跟上学早为喇嘛仁波切的给年根王比当修那个人全部不逆集中。各松对接我这早的说，上师先说仁波切马吉王的地儿。Dewa nyamba me par yang pong de kong de pe or sho kong re re we kur we chong kong der pen dang dewa ma le jong we ten zhe yang zo yi sha pe sen de par de ten jer chi ja bu pa wo je dra chen pa dang kong de zang wo de yang de jin de da gen ji ji se dang lo shi ye wa de da dang je ra de ngo de su sha bi ja wa dang ji wa gang la shou de nga ba de da jin yi bi sa wa de gen jiang song wo ju shi ra我儿接盘的中的担保的生意，但在有他们这更中的这更大的这种报道的记者这才有更多要中高位，他说新人也是在内地要为我别让上的呢，可是这样都不让嘛就是我们东北要为他们帮忙可以。是的，就那三九安平就把嘛，我说那边这里研究就甚至哪怕这也把，你的那里就是瑞那的嘛，他这说完没说。啊，那说看这些台呢，他的让个说。